Welcome back to Vuln Vibes. We're jumping right into a pretty critical security update today.
Yeah, Fortinet's dealing with a zero-day CVE 2025-32756.
Exactly. It's a remote code execution vulnerability.
Yeah.
And it's being actively exploited against FortiVoice enterprise phone systems.
And the key things here, critical severity, RCE, and crucially unauthenticated attackers can get in.
Right. No login needed. And it's not just FortiVoice, is it? The advisory mentions FortiMail, FortiNDR.
FortiRecorder, FortiCamera, too. So the potential impact is, well, broader than just the phone systems.
Okay, so today we want to really break down what's happening here, look at the trends, and figure out what this means for security teams out there.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is how Fortinet found this. Their own product security team spotted it.
Not a research report, then. They saw actual attacks.
Exactly. They noticed some suspicious activity, things like weird network scans hitting the devices.
Okay.
And attackers deleting system crash logs. Always a red flag, right? Trying to hide their presence.
Definitely. Anything else stand out?
Yeah, they saw attackers turning on crutchy debugging.
Yeah.
That's not something that's enabled by default.
So toggling that suggests they were actively poking around, maybe trying to exfiltrate data or understand the system better.
Precisely. It points towards deliberate reconnaissance, post-compromise, or maybe even preparation.
So technically, what kind of vulnerability are we looking at here?
It's a stack-based overflow. Basically, attackers can send a specially crafted, malicious HTTP request.
And overflow the buffer, letting them run their own code.
You got it. Remotely, and again, without needing any credentials beforehand. That's the really dangerous part.
Okay, and Fortinet actually shared some details about the attackers themselves.
They did. They listed several IP addresses they observed carrying out these attacks. I've got the list here. 198.105.127.173.
0.43, 0.236, 0.187, 0.127, 0.124.
Right, 156.2.22 by 0.187.69 numbers, 244 and 59.
Good IOCs for people to check against their logs. And what were these attackers doing after they got in?
The usual post-exploitation stuff, unfortunately. Deploying malware, for one. They were also adding cron jobs, likely for persistence and maybe for harvesting credentials over time.
Yeah.
And dropping network scanning scripts to map out the internal network, presumably looking for other targets.
So classic lateral movement prep. And back to that 4G debugging thing. Is there a way for admins to check that?
Yes, Fortinet provided a diag debug application FC.g. You need to run that and look for a line saying general to file enabled.
Okay, so if you see that enabled status and you didn't enable it yourself, you might have a problem.
Exactly. It's a concrete indicator to look for, which is helpful.
Now, patching is obviously ideal, but we know that's not always instant. What's the immediate mitigation advice?
Fortinet's recommendation, if you can't patch right away, is pretty drastic. Disable the HTTP and HTTPS administrative interface on the vulnerable devices entirely.
Wow, okay. That shuts down web-based management. That really highlights how serious they consider this threat.
It does. It's a big operational impact, but it cuts off the primary attack vector for this specific vulnerability.
This isn't the first time we've talked about Fortinet devices being targeted recently, is it?
No, it feels like there's a pattern emerging. You had the Shadow Server Foundation finding those compromised devices using a symlink backdoor from older attacks.
Right, remnants of previous campaigns.
And wasn't there also a warning about a critical FortiSwitch bug not long ago? Something about changing admin passwords remotely?
Yeah, that's right. So seeing another critical RCE being actively exploited, it does suggest Fortinet appliances are, well, squarely in attacker sights.
It really does. It underscores that constant pressure. Patching fast is critical, but also that proactive monitoring using those IOCs Fortinet provided is just as vital.
So the main takeaway seems clear. Another critical zero-day, actively exploited, hitting widely used infrastructure. Need for speed in patching, need for vigilance in monitoring.
Definitely. And it pushes towards a bigger question, I think.
Which is,
given this, repeated targeting of Fortinet gear, maybe it's time for organizations to think strategically. Beyond just patching the latest hole, what adjustments do you need in your overall defense strategy?
how are you hardening these critical edge devices beyond just the vendor patches?
Exactly. Are your layered defenses robust enough for this kind of persistent focus from threat actors? That's something to really mull over.